Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of On Screen. I'm your host Dylan Wright and I'm here to take you on a journey through film and television. Now recently there's been an alarming number of people in Hollywood that have come out and admitted that they have been sexually assaulted by other high-ranking executives and actors. Now as a host of a film and television podcast, I felt like I couldn't really keep doing this podcast unless I addressed this issue, because it's very prevalent and it's a very troubling thing that's currently happening in an industry that's supposed to be about making dreams come to life. And it seems like a lot of people have not had such a blissful experience, and it's really sad that this is the state of the industry at this time. And it's an issue that has more or less taken place, according to a lot of different sources, since the beginning of the Hollywood machine. If you only look back to the 1930s during the production of The Wizard of Oz, Judy Garland was at the time 16, 17 years old, and she was abused and raped and sexually assaulted by several executives. There was rumors that some of the actors that portrayed the Munchkins also sexually abused her, and she was only 16 years old at the time. If you look at Tippi Hedren, who starred in Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, she reported in her recent autobiography that Hitchcock had made advances on her and had attempted to kiss her and have his way with her. And when she refused him, he apparently made life on set a little more difficult for her and basically took out his frustrations for her spurning his advances in a way that was not professional at all. He also had a connecting room to her dressing room that he could just walk in at any time. And I guess he had a cast of her face made for his own personal collection, and it wasn't needed for the movie, but he had this face cast that he just had of her. And this is less of a sexual abuse, but more of an emotional abuse. Stanley Kubrick, on the set of The Shining, basically made Shelley Duvall's time there just a living hell. She was not having a good time at all because he was making sure that nobody in the crew was being nice to her, or nobody in the crew was attempting to console her. He told the crew, don't sympathize with Shelley. And Jack Nicholson said that he had a wonderful time with Kubrick and thought he was a great director, but the time that Shelley Duvall had with him was clearly very different. He singled her out, made sure that she was uncomfortable, and she apparently was losing hair at the end of this production because of how stressed and just out of her mind she was, because Kubrick was pushing her to the edge and having her do many scenes in a row and not telling her things that he should have told her for her safety. And she would apparently go home and cry for 12 hours straight. And that's just terrible that these kind of things have been happening in the industry. And only now are these allegations coming to light and being acted upon. These are things that have happened in the past that people have either swept under the rug or ignored. It seems like sexual harassment in Hollywood is being suppressed and it's being overlooked because, oh, well, these are high-ranking individuals that run this place, and, oh, this guy's a famous actor, so we're not going to really do anything about that. And it feels like that the victims of these attacks are afraid for their careers. They're worried that if they come forward and give this information out, that something will prevent them from going farther in the industry. And it's really sad that that's the state of affairs. They shouldn't have to worry about making their environment a safer place. They shouldn't have to worry about it being a dangerous place. They should be able to come forward and see justice done. But it seems like the offending party is not held responsible in a lot of these situations. You got somebody like Harvey Weinstein, who's been apparently doing this for however long he's been doing it, and only now in 2017 is he being held accountable for his actions. Woody Allen, he's still getting directing gigs after being accused of allegedly raping his young daughter. Like, it's horrible. It's a terrible state of affairs, and they're using these powerful positions that they have to take advantage of people that are in a vulnerable and precarious place. As an actor, there's a lot of emotions going through your head at any time to try and get into character. It's a very vulnerable state of mind that a lot of actors find themselves in because they need to get into their character. They need to give the best performance they can. And if they're not in a safe environment, they're not going to be able to do that. If they're having to constantly be worried about somebody who's in a higher position than them taking advantage of them and creating an environment that is not at all great to work in, it's not good. And honestly, the courage of the people that spoke out should definitely be applauded. It's taking a first step towards a brighter future for everybody involved. And I'm glad that their voices are now being heard and they're clearly being listened to. Is the problem solved by just outing the individuals that have perpetrated these attacks? No, absolutely not. I feel like Hollywood is making a step in the right direction. Absolutely, they are taking a step in the right direction, but they still have a long ways to go before they can consider themselves a safe work environment. You have young children that are child actors that are basically raised in this industry. And if they're being raised around this mindset that, oh, well, we can take advantage of these people because we're higher up than them and they need us to further their career, that's a terrible state of mind. That's such an I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine mindset. That's just ugly and unbefitting of an industry that is being seen around the world. Actors should have a safe place on these shows. They should have a safe place on these movie sets. They shouldn't have to worry about the big hotshots coming in and deciding to have their way with them. If they come into a workspace where someone might assault them, it's not a safe work environment. They need to make it so that anybody that shows up on these sets is able to feel welcome and safe, like they're able to do what they came to do. It's like any other job. It's like going into an office. You go into an office, you do your work, and you go home. You don't need to make anything else of it. You don't need to make everybody know that you're the head honcho. You don't need to take advantage of these people. And this is honestly a black and white issue. This is something that needs to be addressed. And the idea that the victims had it coming or asked for it in any way it's a horrible and a backwards way of looking at this issue. It is. Because in that sense, we're victim blaming. And it only allows for the people that have taken advantage of others to walk away free. If we're so focused on people, of the people that are being attacked and being abused and are like, well, they shouldn't have been acting this way, or, oh, they shouldn't have been doing this. That's treating the symptom. That's not treating the problem. The problem is the people that feel that they can do these things. And it's really difficult to allow ourselves to let that go. And people are immediately thinking, well, they must be trying to get attention. That's one of the biggest mindsets that I've heard in this debate for people on the other side. Woody Allen came out saying that he didn't want this whole situation to be a witch hunt where people are being, accused of things that they didn't do and things like that. And this is coming from somebody who has been accused of something and basically nothing has happened to him. He's just continued to work on his movies. Sure, his reputation is a little tarnished to people that care, but otherwise he's been continued to do work. I think Hollywood is taking a step in the right direction now by preventing the people that have been accused of various sexual assaults, and they're preventing them from getting work. For instance, Kevin Spacey, who was accused of sexually harassing actor Anthony Rapp when he was a young boy. He's now been fired from the set of House of Cards, and one of his movies is being reshot with Christopher Plummer replacing Kevin Spacey. And I think it's these kinds of steps that should be taken, because it shows that Hollywood is no longer allowing this kind of thing to happen. But on the other hand, there are people in Hollywood still that have had records of abusing their spouses or abusing other people, and they're still allowed to have starring roles in movies and things like that. Like, for instance, Johnny Depp. He was accused of abusing his spouse, Amber Heard. He starred in Murder on the Orient Express that just came out a couple weeks ago. It's really sad that these kind of people are able to continue working through the system and continue to be looked up to in a way that they shouldn't, because they've done some despicable things, and it should be pointed out and it should be addressed. It should be dealt with, because it's an industry that definitely is starting to change. for the better, absolutely, but it still needs to continue changing. It's not quite done with this issue, and I'm honestly not sure that it will be for quite some time, because absolute power corrupts absolutely. And whenever you have somebody in a position of power that shouldn't be in power, bad things can happen. We've clearly seen this happen in Hollywood with someone like Harvey Weinstein, a big shot producer, taking advantage of people. It's a sad state of mind, but it's getting a little better, and hopefully in the near future, we won't have to have actors or actresses being afraid of working. We will be able to make sure that they're in a safe environment. And that's all anybody wants, is a steady job with a safe environment that they can feel comfortable and relaxed in, and they don't have to be worried about a fear of reprisal for something or a fear of an attack. That's all that can be asked of anybody.